And now we're going to learn about partitions, how to create them, why we need them. So first of all, we're going to install EasyAS partition tool, partition master. So you go to their website. You can find the address in the description of this video, and free download. It is equivalent to partition magic that you may have heard of, which is a shareware. So you have to pay for it, and EasyAS is free. So you download, you install, and then you're going to execute it, open it. So partition manager, and we're going to see what happens here. So you can see here my computer. There are three letters. There's the C, D, and E. It seems as if I had three hard drives. Actually, I only have two, and the second one I separated it in two partitions. So we can see here you've got one hard drive, which is my backup. So it's the letter D, and then I've got another hard drive where I have installed my operating system Windows in the C partition, and then you've got the E where I've got my data. So what I did here, normally when you buy a hard drive, there are no partitions. There is only unallocated space. So it means it's just empty, and the space you have to allocate it to a partition in order to use it. So I first created two partitions when I installed my Windows version, and so I've got one for my Windows installation, so I've got all the programs, everything there, and then I've got another one for my data. So the question would be the logical question would be, why use two distinct partitions? And I found a link here. This is for gparted, from the gparted website. This is an equivalent of, is the same thing as EasyAS partition master, but I found it a bit less economical. So these are the arguments. So for example, if you want to install more than one operating system, so if you need to have Windows and Linux on the same machine, well, you have to use different partitions. You cannot just use one and install everything there. So this is one argument, and then imagine that you've got Windows and Linux installed on your machine, and then you've got files that you have to access from Windows and from Linux. The problem is, if you have data on your Windows partition, you cannot easily access them from the Linux operating system, and vice versa. So you can just create a different partition, a separate partition, where you've got the data, and then you can access that partition from any operating system. Another thing is that creating different partitions can make your computer maintenance tasks quicker. So we know that a hard drive has sectors, and when you've got, maybe this is the argument, so the files that are installed, that are in the beginning of the hard drive, can be accessed much faster than the data that are located at the end of the hard drive. So that means the files that we need to use all the time, we have to install them in the beginning of the hard drive. So what we do is we take the hard drive, we create at least two partitions. The first partition, you can see it here. So I created my Windows partition in the beginning of my hard drive. So I installed the operating system there, and then you can create as many partitions after that. So okay, so we need all the installation files to be in the same partition and in the beginning. And then another argument, imagine for example that you want to scan your hard drive for viruses. So what you can do is have two different partitions, one for your data, as I said, and one for the Windows installation or your operating system, whichever that is, and you can scan them apart. So if you try to scan 1 terabyte, that takes a lot of time. So if you scan two different partitions at two different moments, that will speed up the process. And it is a good argument when you have to defragment. For example, defragmenting 1 terabyte can take a lot of time. So I've got my two partitions, and it is much faster. And again, imagine, so this hard drive, I bought it in order to have a backup of my data. So if I only had one partition on my hard drive, on the hard drive I use all the time, where I've got Windows and everything. So imagine you've got only C here, no E, and I've got Windows and my data. So if I want to make a copy of that hard drive in order to have a backup, I would have to copy all the files. So the software would have to also clone the Windows installation files, and I do not need that. I only need my data backed up. So I have all my data on the E partition. So when I want to clone that partition, I only say, okay, take everything there is in E and you clone it to D. So it's much faster, because in order to have a backup, to create a backup, the software has to make a list of every single file on the partition. And imagine that the Windows partition, the Windows installation directory is very, very heavy. There are many files, so that would take up a lot of time. So there you go for the arguments. So I'll do that. So what I've got here, I decided to I installed VirtualBox, which is a software that allows you to have a virtual version of Mac or Windows or Linux on your machine. So I've got Windows XP installed here, and I need from time to time to work on a Mac version, on the Mac operating system. So I need a virtual copy of that operating system. So I need a different partition to work on Mac. So I've got here, you see the first partition, 44 gigabytes, and then I've got 887, and I've got only 10 megabytes left. So that's not enough. So what I need to do, I have to resize that partition, get 10 megabytes, sorry for that, 10 megabytes from that, and I'm gonna create in that a different partition. So resize, right click resize, and the partition size, I'm going to, instead of, these are megabytes and not gigabytes, I'm going to subtract, there you go, 10 megabytes, sorry, 10 gigabytes, and there you go. So this is the new volume, the new size of the partition, and it says I've got almost 10 gigabytes of unallocated space. So this is where I'm going to create my new macOS partition. So it is unallocated, so I'm gonna right click, create partition, and then I'm going to give it a name. This name is going to be it is going to be shown here in the my computer folder. So Windows backup 1, 2, blah blah. So I'm going to call it macOS X, for example. Create as logical or primary. So to know that, you have to know that a primary partition is the partition where you install your operating system. So my Windows partition is primary. Everything else is going to be logical. File system, X2 and X3 are for Linux. FAT is a bit old, so you have to choose between NTFS and FAT32. So what you need to know is whether the macOS, in this case, can run on FAT32 or NTFS, etc. So if I have data on this partition, can I access them from my Windows partition? So you have to take all that under consideration. I'm going to do a NTFS drive letter. I'm going to give it OKF, okay, and then class size, don't care about that. And there is unallocated 10 gigabytes of unallocated data. I'm going to space, I'm going to give it all to this partition. Okay, there you go. So I've got my two tasks. You need to understand that for the time being we haven't done anything. I just created two tasks. So if I want to apply them, I have to click on apply changes, and it is going to ask, okay, two operations are currently pending, apply changes now, shut down the computer, blah blah blah. So normally I should say yes, shut down the computer after the changes, because actually the computer has to be shut down in order for the tasks to be executed. So if I say no, there's nothing that's going to happen. So you can see that it's not working, it's not doing anything. So normally you do apply yes, and since I'm preparing this video, if I say yes, it's going to shut down, so the video is not going to be saved. So you say yes, it's going to shut down, and then it's actually easy as partition master is going um, to take over. The computer is going to do whatever it needs to do, and then shut down, and Windows is going to be back up again. So after you restart, so you're gonna have C, D, E, and then the new partition F. So this is what you need to know. Sorry, about partitions.